Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, The Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, best-selling author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Last week on the Worry-Free Retirement, we shared with you the concept of the retirement window of opportunity, which is that period of time in one's retirement planning life when savers might enjoy the most flexibility to use and enjoy their retirement savings previously locked up inside their 401k plans. This window of opportunity begins at the age of 59 and a half and ends at age 72. It's a window I refer to as halftime. Halftime is that window of opportunity that provides the most flexibility with the least amount of government hassle and intervention so that we can use and enjoy our money. Yet, as easy as it might seem for savers to want to finally start enjoying some of this money that has taken a lifetime to save, time and time again I meet with savers who are trying to retire worry-free, yet are in a constant state of confusion over all these complicated and possibly penalizing tax laws that are associated with the 401k withdrawals and how best to use it. And as a result, most people end up doing nothing and just paying the taxes that they owe. Now, last week we talked about one of the more complicated 401k tax rules that comes along with turning age 72, formerly age 70 and a half, something the government refers to as the Required Minimum Distribution, or RMD, and the penalties that you will incur if you don't take your RMD when the government tells you you have to. Now today, we're going to talk about another window of opportunity that most people miss out on, one that could prove to save you and your kids thousands, listen now, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in unnecessary taxes. A planning technique which, unlike the RMD, is not affected nor determined by your age, and it's something called the Roth conversion, which is the topic of today's program. Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, 401k rollover specialist and Roth conversion specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we get started with how you could possibly save thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on that tax-infested 401k or IRA, let me introduce America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander. Good morning, Aaron.
Hey, good morning, sir. How are you?
I am doing very, very, very well, actually. I've been up for a while and working. We're going to do 2 radio shows today. I know Trey will be in here, my favorite son-in-law, shortly, and a television show as we record all of this on June 30th?
That's right. Last day in June.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That caught me off guard. I knew it was in June, but I thought, wait a minute. We're getting up on July 4th weekend. But yeah, on June 30th, 2021. And Aaron, let me start off the program with this. Okay. I'm going to use this premise. I promise you I'm not trying to trick you into anything, but if what you thought were true, but it turned out not to be true, or if you were doing something wrong that was costing you money and it was easy to fix it, in other words, there was an easy solution, when would you want to know about that solution, now or later?
Now, as soon as possible.
Thank you. Okay, so let's use an example as we get ready to delve into a subject that a lot of people have a lot of confusion on, and this is the idea of a Roth conversion. Don't worry, I'll explain what this is in layman's terms, but so imagine, Aaron, okay, let's say you came in here one day and you keep complaining to me about how you and Jessica don't seem to be able to cool down your house. You with me so far? It just doesn't stay cool.
Okay.
You keep getting these electric bills that are through the roof. Got that part?
Yep.
Okay. And you come to me one day, just in passing, you say, Tony, I don't know about you, but I am getting tired of being so hot all the time. Our house won't cool down, and the darn electric bills are sky high. And I'm like, hey, Aaron, why don't you have a heat and cool guy that specializes in that to come over to your house and check it out? And especially if he would do it free of charge. Would you let him come over and take a look?
Free of charge? Yeah.
Sure. No harm, no foul, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And immediately he walks in and he walks around the house a minute. He comes in and he says, Mr. and Miss Orander, I don't know if you knew this, but you have a back window in the back room there that's wide open. And if you were to say, so what? Which, let's say just for a minute, you have no clue about how heat and air works. But if you were to say, so what would he probably tell you to do, since he knows a little something about heat and air? Would he tell you to put in a whole new air conditioner, or would he tell you to do something very simple? What would he tell you to do?
He'd probably say, let's do the simplest solution first. Let's close that window and see if that changes anything.
Bingo. So, sometimes, folks, really things are not that complicated. You've got problems. You're not sure what's going on. In this case, we're talking about a huge problem, and I call it the tax tumor. And you say, well, what's the tax tumor, Tony? Well, that's that tax-infested amount of money that's growing inside your 401k plan. It could be growing in your IRA, a TSP, 403b. Whenever you hear this term pre-tax, we'll get into this in a minute, but whenever you hear this term pre-tax, in other words, you're putting money pre-tax into your 401k or IRA, that's all well and good, and you can enjoy the air conditioning like Aaron and Jessica, but the problem is you're going to have to pay the piper. The problem is that's a very inefficient way to save money. Again, folks, as I always say, while the 401k plan is a wonderful savings tool, it is absolutely the worst planning tool known to men. So what can we do about this tax tumor? What can we do that's as simple as going in the back of the house and closing the window so we can be more efficient with our money? Well, I'm Tony Walker. When I come back, we're going to take a deep dive into what is a Roth conversion and how can it benefit you and possibly your kids long after you're dead and gone. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. We care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 2,000 happy clients and an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Tony Walker here. And first of all, let me say something. I really appreciate, you don't realize how much I appreciate when you just say, hey, Tony, I listen to the radio show. It doesn't matter whether you work with Tony Walker Financial or not. We just really appreciate you tuning in and appreciate your feedback. So let me make this offer to you. If you want to just call us, the number is 877-499-9255, 877-499-WALK, and just say, hey, if you want to, hey, Tony, really appreciate the show, appreciate the information. Or you can email me, Tony at TonyWalkerFinancial.com, Tony at TonyWalkerFinancial.com if you want to drop a note. And just as importantly, if there's a topic or a question that you have you would like me to cover on the show that you think, Tony, I have this come up, or I've got friends at work that are always asking. Here's a common one, Aaron. We're with Aaron Orander, by the way. Here's a common one. We have a couple of companies that have a lot of people with 401k plans, okay? And the common question I hear a lot of them ask is, Tony, some of my buddies have retired and they've got their 401k still with their former custodian. In other words, and they'll say, why should I move my 401k over to Tony Walker Financial? And guess what? We're going to cover that in another show in some questions, but that would be a common question. So if you've got a question that you keep hearing and that you think people would want to know about, again, just send the question to Tony at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. We'll be sure to get it on the show. And if you just want to call and give us a question that way, if you're riding down the road right now, it's TonyWalkerFinancial.com, the website, or just give us a call at 877-499-9255. And by the way, Aaron, if people have missed the shows before, tell them how they can listen to prior episodes of the Worry-Free Retirement.
Sure, no problem. If you want to catch past episodes of the radio show, all you got to do is go to SoundCloud.com. SoundCloud.com. And when you're there, right there at the top, there will be a search bar. Just type in the Worry-Free Retirement. Click search, and when you do, you're going to see Tony's awesome bobblehead. Just click on that, and you're going to find all past radio shows.
Thank you, Aaron. Oh, by the way, Aaron, I bet you've never heard of this fellow we're getting ready to talk about. You ready?
Okay.
Judge Learned Hand, Hand.
I have heard that name before. I don't really know a lot or really honestly anything about him.
He's an interesting fella. I've heard some quotes of him over the years, and preparing for this show, I kind of looked him up. Yeah, Judge Learned Hand. Let's see, he was born in 1872, died in 1961. He was pretty well known in his circles as a United States District Court judge, later the United States Court of Appeals. But man, if you go in and just Google Judge Learned Hand, you're talking about some wise quotes. Wise as in I'm complimenting, not wise guy, but wise quotes and just some really heavy duty messages about life, money, taxes, the law, obviously. But listen to this quote he had, and I love this quote because this ties in directly with what we're talking about on not paying all these unnecessary taxes, and in our case, dealing with a tax tumor through something called a Roth conversion. He said the following, Aaron: the law does not require one to pay more in taxes than the law requires. That almost sounds like a riddle, but
okay.
How would you interpret that? Let me read it again one more time. The law does not require one to pay more in taxes than the law requires.
It almost kind of reminds me of what Jesus said when the Pharisees asked him about should we pay taxes to Caesar, and he's like, well, yeah, give to Caesar what's due to Caesar.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just kind of the first thing that popped in my head.
Yeah, whose inscription is on there? Give it to Caesar.
Right.
Yeah, I think what Judge Learned Hand was saying is we, as American citizens, have every right, as long as we're doing it legal, to not have to pay unnecessary taxes. If the law allows us these loopholes, we'll call them loopholes, they're not really loopholes, but if the law specifically says there's things we can do to save taxes and we do them, we're not breaking the law.
Okay.
Right? So the law doesn't require you to pay more taxes than the law requires. So what is a Roth conversion? Well, let's back up a minute. And again, make sure you understand, if you have currently a pre-tax retirement account, in other words, you've been putting money pre-tax into a 401k, IRA, thrift savings plan, 403b, a lump sum pension that you're going to roll over, for instance. We have some of those still out there. Somebody wants to roll over a pension and put it with us into an IRA. All of those fall under what's called pre-tax. In other words, it has not been taxed yet. And the government is not fools, folks. The reason they've been letting you postpone, that's really all you've been doing, postponing these taxes is they know one day they're going to get their hands on it. And if you wait too long, they'll penalize the heck out of you. That's why you may want to go back and listen to last week's episode for more on this. That's why they created the required minimum distribution age of 72. It used to be 70 and a half. They've moved it now to 72. So let's make sure you understand what that is and why they did it. At 72, if you have a pre-tax account, you have to. You can't put this off. You must, by law, start taking money out of that plan. Now, it's not usually a huge amount of money. It's based on the amount of money you have in your 401k or IRA. I always like to say it's a factor, and I use the factor of 4%. It's not exact, but it's close. So let's say you're 72 and you have $100,000 in an IRA that has not been taxed. That first year required minimum distribution is about 4% of the 100, or in that case, you will have to take out $4,000, and whatever the tax is, you have to pay it. And then each year, it gets higher and higher because why do they do that? They want their tax revenue, folks. They're not going to let you out of this easy. You're going to have to pay that tax. So maybe you're sitting there, and unlike the window we talked about last week where you can use and enjoy your money during halftime, the Roth conversion is available to anybody at any age. That's what's kind of cool about this. So what is a Roth conversion? Okay, let's use the example, Aaron. Let's say you're, and at your age, let's say you're in your, what, are you 40 yet?
I'm 40. I'll be 41 soon. Next week.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, next week. Was that a hint? Am I supposed to?
Yeah. That was it. No. I had to think about it for a minute. I was like, when will I be 41?
Isn't that funny how as you get older, it's like, I don't know, whatever. You can't even remember your age, much less when you were born. Okay, so let's say at your age, Aaron. I know you used to work at a previous employer somewhere, and let's say you had a 401k, right? Maybe $20,000 in that former employer. and you had moved that over to an IRA, transferred it over, no cost, and all of a sudden you're listening to this show and you're like, okay, Tony, I got $20,000 in that 401k that's now an IRA. Am I going to have to one day pay taxes? The answer would be what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll have to pay the taxes on it.
And you could put it off. You could wait till 72, right? And let's say that thing grows, though. Let's say at age 72 it's worth $100,000. The tax tumor, in other words, has grown, right? Now you're going to owe taxes.
Money's grown, but so has the taxes.
Boom. Okay. And here's the thing, Aaron. At your young age, if we fast forward to 72, that's almost 32 years away, what would you think is going to happen to the taxes? Do you think in this country taxes will be higher or lower in 30 years?
They'll probably be higher. There'll probably be additional taxes. I don't know.
Get bingo. So let's go with the rule of chance here, because I've been in this business 37 years, and this is the lowest I've ever seen taxes. So if we look historically, that's all we can do, historically, and then the problems with our nation's debt, etc., I think a person would probably say, I'll probably, more than likely, at your age I know you will be in a higher tax bracket. Okay. So why, Aaron, would you not go back to the back, now that I'm the air conditioning guy and I'm coming in, and close that window, stop the growth of that tax tumor now, and deal with the tax now? If you could do that. So again, we're back to that truth. If you could do something now to provide a fix to a problem that you know is going to get worse, would you do it?
Sure.
Okay. So here's how a Roth conversion would work, Aaron. In Aaron's case, let me turn back to the audience here, Aaron. So this might be you. You may have a 401k, IRA. It doesn't matter. You can be at any age. You could be 40 or 80, folks. This is the wonderful thing about a Roth conversion. It is not limited by age. It is not restricted by age. So here's how Aaron would do that. And let's say we were handling his IRA. What we do is we basically tell the government, it's a little more complicated on our end of this, it's paperwork, etc., but we're going to tell the government that Aaron wants to pay his tax now. He wants to convert his IRA from a pre-tax account to a tax-free account. You with me so far, Aaron?
Sure.
Yeah, that's all we're doing. And the government says, no problem, Aaron. What is your current tax bracket? And let's say Aaron is in a 20% tax bracket. The government will take 20% of $20,000. Now, this is where it's a little painful at first, Aaron. Bear with me on this. Right now, it's not sounding too free, is it? 'Cause you're getting ready to pay some taxes now, but hang on. Okay. So now, you were thinking, wait a minute, I thought it was free just to close the window. You still got to pay some money. The guy at least showed, have you ever heard that old joke? It's a good joke. Don't let me get off track here, but this is a good one. So there's a story of a huge nuclear plant that is having major, major issues. Their reactors are acting up. The best engineers in the world can't figure out what to do, and they're worried this thing's going to implode and explode. So they call in a world physicist that apparently is just well known for figuring out problems and providing solutions very quickly. So he shows up, and all the engineers are following around with paper and pen, waiting to see what this man might find out. And he looks around at the stacks, and he walks around, and he said, see that dial right there? And they go, yeah. Replace that dial, and your troubles will be over. So they order the dial immediately, replace it. Ooh, everything cools off. Everything's fine. And the president of the company comes to this engineer and goes, sir, this is incredible. You've saved us, our plant, probably millions of lives. Please, please, please send us your bill. Now remember, he's only in the plant about 10 minutes. He says, I'll do that. So a couple of days goes by. He sends a bill to the president of this company. The bill is for $100,000.
Okay.
And the president is furious. He says, wait a minute. That guy was only here 10 minutes. All we had to do was replace that silly dial, a $10 dial, and he's wanting $100,000? And he says, I'm going to take issue with that. So he writes an email back to him, and he said, sir, with all due respect, please send an itemized list of why you think this is worth $100,000. And the gentleman replies back, I'll send you right back a bill with an itemized list. So he sends back the bill. Let's see if I got this right. So the bill says $10 for the dial, $999,090, I guess that would be, of knowing where to find it.
Knowing where to look.
Where to look. Okay. So folks, sometimes it's knowing where to look and where the problem is. And it's not a matter of, well, that was easy. It's a matter of, no, you got to know where to look. So what's going to happen here in this Roth conversion when Aaron, if he does this, converts the $20,000 to a Roth, if he's in a 20% bracket, he's going to pay $4,000 in taxes now. You got that, Aaron?
Got it.
You do not pull the money out of the Roth or the IRA. So Aaron, you've got, in order for this to really work efficiently, you're going to have somewhere with some money sitting, let's say in a bank savings account, the $4,000, that's the bone you're going to throw to the IRS. So
Okay.
you don't pull the $4,000 out of the IRA because you want that full $20,000 to now be a Roth. Because if he does that, folks, if he pays the $4,000 now, that $20,000, listen closely, if it does grow to $100,000 in that same example when he's age 72, guess how much taxes you'll owe on the $100,000?
0. Yeah. Nothing.
Nothing. Now stew on that.
You've already taken care of it.
That's right. Now here from a planning standpoint, folks, you might say, well, is that really a big deal? This is a huge deal because what we just took off the table, folks, is the uncertainty of what the future taxes will be. You've got to understand this is a humongous advantage in planning. In fact, Aaron, one of the things I run into, I had 15 appointments yesterday. Most of the people, if I can tell them with more and more certainty of what's going to happen in the future, you know what? They start worrying less about it. So folks, the more unpredictable things going on in your life, the more you're risking money in the stock market, the more you don't understand tax laws, the more you're not earning any interest on your money, the more you haven't thought through how you want to give money to kids now versus later. All of this stuff leads to worry. And the only way to worry less about money is to meet with somebody that understands this stuff, like Tony Walker Financial. Let me invite you to do this right now. If you'd like to talk to me by phone, we have a system we call the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. You can call our offices. I'll be happy to talk to you by phone at no cost or obligation. Just call 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. Or better yet, just go to our website at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. And when you get there, you're going to click on that Let's Get Started button. Okay? TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Okay, when we come back, I want to close out with two different examples, a 62-year-old, and listen to this, Aaron, an 80-year-old. I said, that's right. I said 80, and you're saying,
we're getting
what?
up there.
We're getting up there. You mean an 80-year-old needs to do a Roth conversion? These are two exact examples of people I've met with recently. So when you stay tuned, Tony Walker right here, The Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. In the roughly 6 minutes or so time remaining on this show, I wanted to use two different examples, change the names and the amounts to protect the innocent, but of actual people that we have looked at and done Roth conversions. By the way, we have someone full-time in our office that assists us in the calculations. That's Leanne Powell. She's certified in tax planning, does a marvelous job on this. So if we're working on a case with you, or if you're a client and you're like, man, does this make sense? Is a Roth conversion right for me? We can test out the taxation of that Roth conversion to make sure it really does make sense. Because again, folks, it's like everything. We'll be talking about this next week. There's no one size fits all. We are going to have a Roth conversion part 2 because you got to be really, really careful on these things. I've had a lot of people rush into them. Actually, Aaron, my first Roth conversion I ever did years ago, I quite frankly, I didn't understand them well. And the couple at first was pretty satisfied. They're like, Tony, I don't know, this was pretty expensive. The tax brackets were not where we had hoped them to be. So you have to be very careful with these strategies. So don't just run out and do them. You got to meet with somebody like us, look at the whole ball of wax, and then we'll determine if a Roth conversion is right for you. But okay, here we go. Got a 62-year-old and an 80-year-old. Let me give you these examples. Why would both of them want to consider Roth conversions? And they're for different purposes. I'm actually going to start with the 80-year-old. Now, most 80-year-olds that I meet, if they live in Kentucky and not Manhattan, New York, are not spending a lot of money. So in this gentleman's example, he had still about $300,000 in an IRA. He didn't need it. He was taking his required minimum distributions. And that's why he came to me. He said, Tony, I'm getting this money. I've got a pension, Social Security. I don't need the money. But if I just take it all out, I'm going to be taxed. What can I do with these RMDs? So what I told him was, I said, why don't you do this? How much money do you have in the bank? I think he said he had a couple $100,000 in the bank. And I said, well, are you needing that? No. How much interest are you earning on it? Nothing. Well, let's do this. What if we took right now, this is a little drastic, Aaron. This was kind of extreme, but we had to kind of move on this because of his age. What if we took that $300,000, just speaking theoretically, and you converted that to a Roth IRA and paid the taxes up now, got him out of the way? He's like, okay, what kind of taxes are we looking at? And I ballparked it, and I said, well, on that amount of money, quite frankly, you're probably looking at $80,000 in taxes. He went, dadgum, it's a lot of money. I said, but remember, sir, when you die, that money, when it goes to your kids, they're going to inherit the tax tumor, and they're going to have to pay it, and they'll have to pay it in 10 years. And I think he had a son that was a doctor in a very high tax bracket. And I said, this money's going to go in their tax bracket, and they'll probably have to pay even more in taxes. And he said, well, that doesn't make any sense. So he's not going to do the whole thing, Aaron, but the idea is we're going to incrementally convert that Roth over, use the bank savings that's over there languishing to pay the tax. And he thinks that's a wonderful idea. And here's another important point. We'll get into this next week. The amount of money you convert over doesn't have to be subject to RMD. It's a wonderful plan. So that's an 80-year-old. So do all 80-year-olds need to do a Roth conversion? Of course not. I'm just saying there is no age limitation to considering a Roth conversion. Now let's move over to the 62-year-old. This 62-year-old had a ton of money in a 401k, well over $1 million. He and his wife both worked. They had a lot of savings. They had a paid-for house. The Social Security was going to be a nice amount of money. And again, very, very conservative lifestyle. Weren't going to spend a lot of money. And he was worried about this whole idea. Tony said, I'm in my 60s. I think taxes will go up in the future. By the time I die, if I don't spend all this money, what's going to happen? So with any type of 401k or IRA, here's the thing, folks. You've got several options. You could just let it keep growing, which some cases all that does is grow the tax tumor, which is not always good. You can take it out and take the tax hit now and spend it. You could take the tax hit out now and give it tax-free to your kids and grandkids. I love that one. Or you could take some of it out and convert it. So he's going to do a combination of things, Aaron. We're going to help him monitor his tax bracket every year, make sure we don't throw him in a higher bracket. And he's going to systematically pull out. Right now, we're going to look at pulling out $30,000 a year now and paying the taxes. You with me?
Okay.
And then he's just going to decide what he wants to do. He's either going to spend it, give it, or he's actually going to convert it. So what's cool about that type of case, folks, and if you're sitting there saying, Tony, none of this sounds familiar to me. I've got an advisor. We never talk about all this stuff. All they want to talk about is, where they're going to move my money and the different stocks and hang in there when the roller coaster ride starts. Folks, that is not planning. Managing money, which is something we do through our Charles Schwab platform, managing money is a process where they're taking money or we take money and we're trying to grow it or get it back to. That's not money management that we're talking about. We're talking about planning. We're talking about taking money management and wrapping a game plan around it that not only includes, where we're going to invest it, that's part of it, but it includes what we're going to do with that money, how we're going to pay taxes on it, whether we should do Roth conversions, what type of tax brackets you're going to be in, considerations like, do we start giving it away? And if so, how much? What are the laws associated with giving? All of these things that go into a well-founded game plan with somebody that knows what the heck they're doing is what we do at Tony Walker Financial. So if you're sitting there right now, let me give you a list of things that might fit your criteria. If you're still working, but maybe like Aaron, let's say you had a former 401k that could be worked with by an advisor and help you out on the taxes and the investments and all that type of thing, there's a candidate. If you're retiring soon, maybe that person's got a bunch of money languishing in the bank and could be doing some planning with it. Why don't you do this right now? Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started button, or better yet, just feel free to give us a call at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. Well, we've certainly enjoyed being with you today. Next week on the show, Roth Conversions Part 2 and why there is no one-size-fits-all, and you got to make sure you're definitely a good candidate for it. So I want to invite you to join us next week, but you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free.